I'd like to call this special meeting of the Anchorage Assembly to order and begin with a roll call.
Mr. Klayman. Here. Ms. Gray-Jackson. Honored to be here. Mr. Flynn. Present. Ms. Johnston. Here. Ms. Osiander. Here. Ms. Drummond. Here. Mr. Birch. Here. Mr. Gutierrez. Here. Mr. Starr. Mr. Starr is absent for the time being. And Dr. Selkirk. And Mr. Coffey.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Ms. Gray-Jackson, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair.
We typically do some announcements at the beginning of our meetings, and I'm going to ask the body to indulge us on that, even though it's not listed on the printed agenda. I know that the mayor has had some conversations about snow recently, and Mr. Mayor, I wondered if you could give us an update.
It snowed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How about a little more?
Well, our crews are out there doing what they always do. It's the same leadership, same crew as in the past, and they're out there working diligently to get the streets clear. Alan Chakowski, our head of operations and maintenance, is here if you want to ask him more specific questions about timing and workforce and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we'll see if that comes up. Do you have anything else you wanted to?
I'll save it for the regular meeting tomorrow, Madam Chair, in the interest of time.
All right. I guess I would like to let the community know again about the broad depth of meetings that are coming up for the Assembly over the next week or two. We are obviously meeting tomorrow. We are also meeting on the 8th, and there's a plethora of committee meetings. Do any other members have any announcements before we get started this evening? I don't see anyone queuing in. All right. Madam Clerk, I guess we already had a motion on the floor to start the operating budget test hearing. Do you believe we need another motion at this time?
No, this is the third public hearing necessitated by not taking action within the 14 days after the second public hearing, so I think we just open the public hearing.
All right. So at this time, we're here to listen. If you want to talk to us about the city's operating budget or capital budget, if you could just come down to the mic, you'll have 3 minutes. If you could start with saying your name slowly so we can get it for the record, we'd appreciate it. All right, just a moment. We initially had done that, so I was assuming it was carried over with the main motion. Okay. This you can speak to us on any of the budgets tonight that are not yet adopted. It's a public hearing on all budgets. So, go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Assembly members. Mayor Sullivan. First, I'd like to begin by saying I'm not speaking on behalf of the municipality, the fire department, or fire prevention. I'm speaking as a taxpayer and a concerned citizen. Yes, I am the employee who is slated to be laid off. I would like to offer you some information to consider when making the final cuts. We have the second lowest number per capita of inspectors of any city that was surveyed our size. Please refer to the handout that you have. Our numbers are one fire inspector for every 31,027 people in the municipality. Compare this to Rochester, New York, which is approximately one inspector per 4,100 people, Cincinnati, Ohio, one for every 4,800 people. These numbers are staggering. There are over 81,000 inspectable buildings in the municipality. Currently, we have 4 inspectors on the street. With numbers like that, it is next to impossible to inspect all of the buildings we should in a way that will keep the public at a minimum of safety. The inspections that are performed are for daycare, schools, hospitals, assisted living, mercantiles, businesses, theaters, shopping malls. Business license inspections are performed, as well as liquor license and assembly permits. Some buildings have never been inspected. If I'm laid off, that will leave 3 inspectors on the street for over 300,000 people. That will force fire prevention into a larger triage mode than they already are. This reduction is putting our city at risk for an event such as the Rhode Island nightclub fire, which occurred in February of 2003, where 100 people were killed. Anchorage has many of these types of occupancies, and this simply will not do. The public takes for granted our buildings are safe. By reducing the number of fire inspectors, this will put not only the public at risk, but the firefighters. If this occurs, 1/3 of the fire prevention staff will have been reduced since 2006. As a taxpayer, I'm not sure how you can justify cutting a revenue-generating position. Currently, this year, I have billed out over $90,000. While my numbers are not of the typical inspector, it is my numbers that should be looked at and referenced when you look at the overall cuts. Please keep in mind, even the fire chief said that more inspectors you have on the street, the more compliance you will get. Fire inspectors are like cops. Even Mayor Sullivan stated one of his goals was to reduce the loss of life and property from fire. This won't happen with cuts like this. Things that I've seen while inspecting buildings are people are sleeping in occupancies where they just cannot do this. I've been into 2 in the last 6 weeks, and I've told them they cannot sleep and they have to remove their items. This is devastating. People are at risk. We had a fire just recently in a fourplex, and I consider it a successful fire, if you want to think of it that way, because I identified that windows needed to be taken care of in this property. And that property owner recognized that that was a challenge, and he chose not to rent those units. Thus, we had no loss of life, and the loss of property was reduced drastically. That owner is currently working on taking care of those issues.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we didn't get your name for the record.
I'm Denise Stiggin.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have a pretty abysmal sound system for the television pickup, so if you could kind of hold the side conversations down, then we can pick up clearly when the people testify. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You may want to announce that there is an S version that's been laid on the table that, if people want to see.
I'm going to ask Ms. Johnston to speak to that as Chair of Budget Committee.
Yes, we do have an S version that Mr. Flynn and I have laid on the table this evening, and just for any of your information, what's in that S version is $150,000 for arts and cultural grants, $16,000 additional dollars for community development grants, $50,000 for Camp Fire, $49,000 for Boys and Girls Club, $20,000 for a human service grant for Project Access, $200,000 to reinstate the early and late bus routes, $50,000 for the Chugach and Eagle River pilot project, and we've also not done the transit fare increases. So if you're testifying to any of those, I just wanted you to know that we have those available. Thank you.
Are there copies of that are available for the public? If I was hoping that people could pick up copies.
It should be online, but I don't think we have any here.
Ms. Grinstein, did you?
I thought we had some sent out. Jacqueline, do we have it here? The S version?
We'll make some copies, and later on in the evening, they'll be available on the counter if you want to see. So it's another possibility that will be discussed. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Marjorie Cord, and I'm with the Mountain View Advisory Committee for the Recreation Center, and I really am here to plead as a resident also not to cut the Boys and Girls budget anymore. We really, really, really need those services in Mountain View. I've seen such a difference in the last 6 years that I've lived there. That's all I'm here for.
Just a minute. Mr. Coffey has a question.
Thank you. Ma'am, if you look at the amended budget, the 14% cut that went to Boys and Girls Club has been 100% restored in the X version.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, guys.
Go ahead, sir.
My name is Frank Jones. I'm just here as a citizen. And I guess this might be the time to tell you people that there are ways to cut a lot of expenses out of this city that are totally, at this time, unnecessary. We used to be all rich, but now that time is gone. The construction on roads and things like, I'll give you an example, Laurel Road, which is only about 6 blocks long. They come in there, they paved it, they dug it out and completely redone it, paved it. Then they come back and block it up at every intersection, cut out the asphalt, poured in red concrete around it, put in concrete planters and put up trees. I guess that's what you call beautification. Our money is not here for beautification anymore. It needs to be put into the schools, the roads, the maintenance, the police department, the fire department, and the 1% art on any construction job. That can be repealed too. And if you cut back some of that, you won't have to cut back on the people of the 200 jobs that our honorable mayor is talking about cutting. And that's about all.
Thank you. Was it Laurel Road?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe Mr.
And they're doing that on all of the roads in construction. That was done last year.
Okay. Maybe we could get a little brief email update on Laurel Road at some point. Thank you, sir.
That's between Spruce.
Yeah. No, I know where it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Susan Bomalaski, Executive Director of Catholic Social Services, and I'm here to testify about the cuts to People Mover, and I think I just heard that some are being restored, so I'm not sure what percentage of the total cuts that is, or I don't know the total amount.
Basically, the mayor has actually not had the transit fare increases, and then the early and late buses that we were looking at cutting, we're going to restore those. We're going to look at the routes that are most effective as far as, getting the most people to work. So that was $200,000.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead with my testimony, but I sure appreciate that. We serve nearly 19,000 individuals a year through our 9 social service programs. The vast majority of those we serve live in poverty and utilize the People Mover public transportation system. I applaud the Assembly's vote on November 10th to strike down the suggested fare increase that you just alluded to. I'm here tonight to reinforce this message and to encourage you to vote against the cuts to the People Mover program, from the elimination of low-use routes to holiday reductions, as we just saw on Black Friday, which saved $37,000 but left 10,000 people stranded who likely took a cab or walked to work. The issue of transportation is often a barrier to achieving goals, whether a person is a refugee seeking a life in a new country, a homeless individual moving towards permanent housing and employment, or a mobility-challenged individual going to a doctor's appointment. We often take transportation for granted because of the availability of a personal automobile, but the majority of our low-income neighbors rely on public transportation, on buses that often don't run on weekends, late at night, or holidays. It is important that we appreciate and realize the fact that transportation barriers exist and that transportation, employment, and the economic strength of our citizens and our community are all related. At Catholic Social Services, we see a very clear and direct link between transportation, employment, and self-sufficiency. Our clients must have access to public transportation to take advantage of job training opportunities, go to job interviews, attend English as a second language class, drop their kids off at daycare, apply online for jobs at the library, or visit the Social Security Administration to secure a copy of their Social Security card. These are examples of activities required to secure employment. They don't begin to address the critical role that adequate public transportation plays in retaining employment. Even without the proposed cuts, utilizing public transportation in Anchorage can be very challenging. For those working non-traditional schedules, the current bus schedule can be daunting. You have to take 2 buses to get to work on a weekend, and the first one is running late. You can end up missing the transfer, and then you need to wait another hour, making you well over an hour late for work. Please reconsider the proposed cuts, as you already have, to the People Mover program in light of the direct connection between economic self-sufficiency for low-income Alaskans and access to reliable public transportation. In a city as spread out as Anchorage, encompassing Eagle River and Girdwood, transportation is an even bigger concern for our low-income neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
I would like to note for the record that both Mr. Starr and Dr. Selkirk have joined us. And if you could stay here a minute, there are some questions. Dr. Selkirk has the first one.
Thank you for reviewing your testimony and sharing it with us. Did you know that we don't have a bus that serves people who work in the bars and restaurant industry downtown, so people are walking home at night?
Do I know that?
Yeah, are you already aware that we don't have an evening bus or a night bus, a 2 a.m. bus, or that people are taking cabs?
Well, I'm aware that we don't have one. I know out to the airport because a lot of our clients work there, so I didn't know that specifically.
Right. So anybody who's working after the buses are closed are in a situation where they're either walking home or taking a cab. So I invite you to stay involved in this issue. I think it's more than just restoring these cuts. I think it's really providing adequate bus service. And I appreciate Catholic Social Services work in this area.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. I agree. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes. Ms. Johnston?
I just wanted you to know that it was $315,000 that were put back into the budget with this S version.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to remind you that that's just a proposal at this point.
Okay.
The Assembly has taken no action on anything.
Thank you.
Thank you. For clarity, we were told two things, just for your information. One, there was a proposed fare increase of $115,000, which the S version has eliminated, so it won't cost any more to ride the bus. Secondly, we were told that reductions of the shoulders or the early morning, late night bus, which are low ridership but still important, were reduced. Those funds were also restored in the proposed S version. So there's still reductions in that department and others, but those two key components for the people you referred to, I think, are very important.
They're very important. Thank you very much for your support.
Madam Chair, just for clarification, may I ask a question about the proposed budget? Just only in terms of our holidays being restored? Mr. Coffey, or can anybody from the administration?
No, I don't know the answer
At least,
to that question.
are they in discussion of being restored?
Well, the S version is right here, so
Okay.
you can read what they are. You should have one.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess, Ms. Johnson, is the holidays being restored?
At this point, no, the holidays have not been restored.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
You can never please me.
My name is Francis Hurley. I'm the retired Archbishop of Anchorage. And once in a while I'm pulled out of retirement. I'm a little bit, first I want to thank all of you for being here. I have a great appreciation for the task that you have and the responsibility that you have, and I've followed many of you with great interest. I'm motivated more by, I suppose what was in the paper this morning, about bus service being discontinued or limited on holidays. I think I would just like to make an appeal to consider holidays as important days, particularly for those people who do not have automobiles, so that they will be able to enjoy the holiday. That's the whole point of it all. And to me it's a little bit, how would I put it, restricting to say that on the holidays they don't have the freedom to be able to get into a bus and go. It doesn't have to be the same schedule, and I don't know anything about all of that and not competent to speak about it. But I do make it an appeal on behalf of the major holidays that we have, certainly, so that the people can take advantage of that, particularly those who do not have automobiles to get around. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Assembly members, my name is Alana Humphrey. I'm Chief Operations Officer for Boys and Girls Clubs. First, I want to thank you for your work and encourage you to pass the S version of the budget. We thank you for that restoration of funding. We have another concern as well. Our Northeast Community Center Boys and Girls Club is funded, I believe, separately from what you've noted in your S version. That was part of the original 14% cut. It appears now that with the S version, our Mountain View Center would be funded at somewhere about a 5% cut. It is very difficult for us to take even that percentage cut. I want to bring to your attention that about 2 weeks ago, Mountain View saw an average daily attendance of 142 kids. These are kids that come before school, they come after school, they stay late when they don't have a place to go. It is a very important program for that community. The Northeast Community Center has an average daily attendance of about 70 kids per day. No less important, those kids need that place to go in the morning and in the afternoon. With the cuts that have been proposed, we are particularly concerned about the early morning program. There is no doubt we will have to cut services a bit. Our early morning program currently serves about 90 young children and families in the two centers combined. We are also facing cuts in operating hours. We thank you for your work on the budget. We know this is a hard job. We want you to be able to know the impact that your money is having. Thank you so much.
Just a moment, there are questions. Mr. Coffey?
Mr. Coffey.
Thank you. My understanding, ma'am, before the S version was proposed, that the $49,000 would have been sufficient to take the grant back to the level that existed last year and covered 100% of the proposed reductions. So what I would ask of you is please in the next, well, we don't vote on this until the 8th.
Right.
Please, let's make sure that we're talking about the same thing and that the information I got was wrong or the information that you got was wrong. So we make sure at least we're talking about the same information, because I was told it's 100% restoration.
Right. We were funded at, we were looking at about a $50,000 reduction in funding for Mountain View. The Northeast program was looking at about a $25,000 reduction.
Well, I would just ask you to please
I will,
talk to Ms. Pratt
absolutely.
or anybody else at the administration level to get that information.
Thank you, Mr.
As
Coffey.
I
I'll
will
do
be
that.
doing too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Johnston?
And following up on that, could you also split out the difference as far as the enrollment between the two programs?
I can.
That would be helpful.
Yes, I can. Mountain View currently serves 800 youth members, and that's rounded. I think it's 832. Last week, their average daily attendance, this was 2 weeks ago, was about 142, including more than 30 teens per day. Northeast Community Center Boys and Girls Clubs currently has nearly 700 youth that are members, with an average daily attendance of about 70. These are kids that use the Boys and Girls Club. In addition, there are community groups and youth groups that use the facilities that are involved with other organizations.
And how many, do you have numbers as far as your early morning enrollment?
Yes, I do. The early morning program is, it's about 90 children combined in the two programs. It's about 75 at Mountain View, and the remainder are at Northeast. The morning program is larger at Mountain View.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Starr?
Do you supervise the Eagle River program as well?
Yes, sir.
And they don't ask for city money in this budget. How are they funding their facility?
They have they have a more diverse funding stream. They are funded through many grants. They're also funded actually through some municipality money for the summer youth employment program. We receive federal funding. I'm sure you saw that our funding was reduced by about $2.3 million this year. Some of that funding covers Eagle River. In addition, I might also add Eagle River just received $10,000 in funding for excellent program excellence, named one of the top 5 in the country. So a multitude of funding. We have about 70 grant sources that fund our 45 clubhouses statewide.
But no taxpayer monies support Eagle River is what your summary was then, like these other programs?
Federal pass-through funding.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Selkirk?
What's the impact of the $2.3 million reduction?
It has been huge. We have reduced our operating budget by about 25% and have to date laid off somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 staff. We've closed clubs, although we expect many of those to reopen. None in the Anchorage area. We've reduced services drastically at McLaughlin Youth Center. It basically is a quarter of our budget that we lost this year. And that was a nationwide reduction. It wasn't just us. It was pass-through funding from the Department of Justice to Boys and Girls Clubs of America.
So you've actually had to reduce services?
Yes, ma'am.
So, and what's the situation in terms of the demand for services?
The demand is definitely up, particularly in our urban areas. The clubhouses have been more fuller, used to more of an extent for about the last year, and all of our clubhouses have seen increases. Mountain View in particular has increased a lot with Clark now reopened. There's a great need there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Alcyander, members of the Assembly, and Mayor Sullivan and his staff. I just wanted to check before I start. Did I miss Anchorage Senior Activities Center getting an increase on that supplemental?
You did.
Okay, I didn't think I heard it. I'm Bill Manns. I'm president of the Anchorage Board Incorporated, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Board of Directors and all of the seniors in Anchorage, the municipality of Anchorage, and those who are over 55 and many who are under 55 who utilize the facilities. Anchorage Incorporated manages the Anchorage Senior Activity Center for the municipality of Anchorage. I'm here this evening to ask, as many of the others have, your consideration to add $100,000 to the contract that we currently have with the municipality of Anchorage to administer, which is administered to the Department of Health and Human Services. The current contract is $395,060. It's been that amount for the past 4 years and represents about 25% of our operating budget. In the past years, the municipality has funded the senior center as high as 65%. The Anchorage Senior Activity Center is in a very difficult financial situation today. The center has closed on weekends since June of this year, and the center will be closed the last week of December and the first week of January, and the employees will either be on leave or leave without pay. In order to keep the center open for the months of November and December, Anchorage Incorporated has had to obtain a $100,000 loan, which has to be repaid. Expenses have been reduced. Personnel expenses have been reduced about $250,000 this year compared to 2008, which was done by reducing our staffing. It went from 34 full-time and part-time to 18 full-time and part-time. And we're cutting staff hours up to 25% of those who are still there. The proposed budget for 2010 is about $200,000 less in the personnel budget than it was in 2009. The facility maintenance costs, which have very little control over from our point of view, have increased about $100,000 in the last 2 years. We go down and turn the lights off, but the place still has to be heated. It still has to be maintained inside, and we've cut our maintenance staff back a couple of people. We want to have 3 instead of 5, but still the utility costs are the primary culprit for the huge increase that we've had in the last 2 years. In 2001, 2, and 3, the space for the center was almost doubled when they added a new wing. Unfortunately, instead of increasing the amount of contracted money that we received from the municipality to maintain the facility, it was actually reduced. And today, we are about the same level that we have been for the last 4 years, and the board entered into a contract with the municipality last year for 5-year funding at this level, which I'm not sure why that happened. I wasn't on the board when it did, but it wasn't a good move on the Anchorage Incorporated board's behalf.
So you're going to have to summarize.
Pardon?
You're going to have to summarize. Your time's up.
Okay. The municipal auditor did an audit of the center's finances and staffing in July of 2009, and it also confirmed in a letter back to the mayor that an additional $100,000 was needed. And let me skip over. I know the finances of the entire municipality are severely strained, but we would consider whatever funds that the Assembly may be able to adjust within their means be added to or considered to be added to the contract for Anchorage Incorporated to run the municipal Anchorage Senior Activity Center.
There's a couple of people with questions. Maybe they'll get...
Yes, I'm available for questions.
Okay. Dr. Stoker.
Do users of the center ever pay for some of the services there? In other words, is there a membership fee at all to be a member of the center?
Yes. Our membership basic fee is $40. We've added new categories of a bronze, gold, and silver for $60, $70, and $80 membership. We also have memberships available for anybody under 55 years of age. They can pay the $40 or one of the enhanced memberships that will be effective on July 1st. And we also have memberships available for corporations, nonprofits, or businesses, that want to participate that way.
And are you working on any sort of endowment strategies in terms of fundraising for the center and building this, people perhaps leaving money to the center as they pass on? Or have you got, the reason I'm asking is because actually I think in some ways your 5-year contract, you might be in worse situation without it right now. So, and so I'm wondering what kind of development strategies you might have in terms of building some sort of an endowment that could help. Have you?
The short answer is yes. We do have an endowment trust fund. It's been in existence for 25 years, starting, in fact, in 2010. We're going to have a very concentrated effort celebrating the 25th anniversary, the same as we did when we raised funds in 2009 with the 25th anniversary of the Anchorage Senior Center.
Right.
And we have, through the trust Board of Trustees, a person on staff who's paid from the trust to specifically raise funds for the trust. And the trust fund actually did have about $3.6 million in it. Beginning of 2008, they lost about $1 million, along with everybody else, in any of the defined kinds of programs where we have very conservative investments. And currently it's about $2.6 million, and there's a very clearly defined way that they can support Anchorage Incorporated in its operations, and that's through the agreement, the trust agreement. And we have received all of the money that we can from that, and we will be receiving $86,000 from that trust fund for operations in 2010.
Thank you. Ms. Gray-Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Bill. Welcome to the Chambers. Do you remember interviewing me 27 years ago for God with the Muni? Anyway, my question is this. The loan that you talked about that the center has, what's the term of the loan and the interest rate?
5%.
And what are the terms?
Well, basically, what we have done is arranged with the trust fund to have a loan, 5%, and we have to repay it within a year. And it's a simple interest. If I can repay it sooner, there's no penalties. And it would certainly is our intent as the board and the Board of Trustees that we've discussed this with them, that we will repay that as soon as we possibly can. And we've gone to the banks and stuff, but what they wanted for any line of credit or a loan is to take the trust fund for 100% security, and that's not available. It's just not there, and we elected not to go that route.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, if you need the account number to put the money into, it's 101-2330-3815.
We have people that know that. Hi.
Thanks. I'd be happy to put just a little money in for there as well. My name is Eric Downey. I'm a business consultant with the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and I'm here as a consumer and an investor in the city. And I'd like to thank you guys all for wrestling with these tough issues in the Assembly and in the administration. It's good work for all of us. My comments tonight would be on the capital budget side. I'd just like to ask you, please think personally. Think about the budget in terms of your own family. And Anchorage is a big family here, a big community. And in tough times, we tend to pay down our debt so that we don't have wasteful interest payments coming at us. We tend to reduce our capital expenditures, defer those, and we take care of the maintenance that we have in front of us. On the operating budget side, I'd like to ask for a little bit of leadership, a lot of leadership. You guys are doing great work, but every discussion I see here today or tonight is about dollars. 50,000 here, 90,000 there. In the business environment, corporations have gone through these processes for the last several years, maybe a decade. And integral into those conversations are discussions of time, quality, as well as cost. And the discussion forms around how can you deliver quality services in a timely manner at the lowest cost. And so as you move forward as leaders, your job is to work with all of the staffers and the people who are providing services to me and everyone else here, to work with them and find out how they can deliver those services with increasing quality in a timely manner with reduced costs. And in the lower 48, many corporations and a surprising number of local governments have turned to lean enterprise and lean manufacturing as a technique for developing ways that employees can deliver improved quality with reduced costs. I have reams of examples if anyone's interested. I won't bother going through any of the numbers here right now, but we need to approach the problem in a new way, a way that's been proven, and a way that gets us beyond this bickering over dollars. We need to move in a new direction that improves our services. And those are all my comments.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wait. Hold on a minute. Ms. Johnston did have a question.
I just was going to say, if you could email us the basic approach, it would be very helpful.
Okay, that's good. I'm sure you'll be hearing it from a number of different sources. But,
Great, thank you.
We will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Assembly, Mayor Sullivan, and Administration. I'm here for two reasons, I guess. One, after hearing that there's an F version, we all know that the F version isn't a slam dunk because we heard that it has to be discussed. I'm encouraged by the fact, though, that some of the funding is put back in, particularly for our school, William Tyson Elementary School. Several years ago, the Campfire people came to me and asked what would be best for our kids to support them either before school or after school. Well, we have a lot of after-school programs. What I proposed to them was come forth in the morning, and so they did. We now have 30 to 40 kids that come at 7 o'clock in the morning. They stay there till 8:30. They have breakfast. They have academics and activities, and they get to use the multi-purpose room in the gym just before going to breakfast. One of the things that I find interesting is that we are all supportive of our schools. They're your schools, they're my schools, and I ask that you please support and reinstate the funding for both the Boys and Girls Club and also the Campfire because they're schools that we value. Your school, William Tyson, and as well as all your other schools. My school, William Tyson, and our community, Mountain View. Programs come and programs go, and sometimes that's a downfall for some of our community members, and we'd like to see this program stay intact. So once again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Quito. I want to remind everybody to say their name first, please, so it can be on the record. And Ms. Johnston, you had a question?
I just wanted to mention, in the S version, you did realize that we put back $49,000 for the Boys and Girls Club, and we put back the Campfire at $50,000.
Absolutely, I was very clear. But I just need to remind you that with budgets, we're all aware that nothing is a sure thing until you people have talked about it and decided. And so I just encourage you to support the F version.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm Polly Hessing, and I live in City View, and I just have a couple of comments. But first of all, I want to thank you all for your time in public service and for listening to people's concerns. And I have a couple questions, and I hope you'll humor me and respond to my questions because they will inform my remarks. The first question is, have any of the members of the Assembly or the Mayor's administration over there ridden a people mover in the past week? And if you have, just show your hands, and if you haven't, that's fine. And how about in the past year? Okay, well, that's great. And then I also have the same question for the library. How many of you have used either this library or any of the branches in the past in this month of November? Okay, great. Thanks a lot. My comment is I don't want to, go through the budget point by point. I think you guys are doing a great job of hashing it out personally, but I strongly encourage you to base your budget decisions not just on your personal experiences, but also on data. So don't assume just from your personal experience that you know what's going on out there. We have a very diverse city. People are not all accessible by telephone or by internet or any of those things. And so even if you're not a regular bus rider, I personally am not. But I make a point of riding the bus at least twice a year just to check it out and see how it's doing and know that it's there for me. And I do have to say it's improved immensely. I have lived in Anchorage off and on since the mid-'70s, and I really like where the city has gone. And I guess the final thing I'll say in closing is we can cut programs and cut and cut and cut. But personally, I'm not excited about having chosen this town to retire and sitting in my house in the dark with the doors barred. I want an open city where people want to live. And I hope we don't cut 1%, Art. I hope we look at other ways of funding things, because I think there's a lot of possibilities out there. Thank you.
Ms. Gray-Jackson has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make one comment, because you asked how many of us ride the bus. I have ridden the bus, but I rode the bus for 21 of the 27 years that I lived in Anchorage straight through, and my son still uses the library on a regular basis. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate them.
Thank you for listening.
Do we have a mic lower down? I don't think that's going to come on. Usually we have two mics. For some reason we don't today.
Hello, my name is Daryl Nelson. I was formerly a member of the Anchorage Public Transit Advisory Board for 9 years, and I wanted to say that yes, we do need the buses, but here's where I would cut out of the transit department. The travel training, not the travel training, but the travel assessment. That is degrading. That is a degrading system. Not being told by a staffer that you can or cannot take Anchor rides because your disability is not great enough. What happens is that if that person knows the system and they know their own disability, a lot of times they will appeal, and every one of those people have to go through an appeal process if they don't like what they say, and then the staffers get paid for 8 hours sitting at a board to determine if that person's eligible or not. I don't think our government should be in the middle of, I'm a socialist, but I still don't believe our government should be in the middle between the patient and the doctor. And that's the problem I see. The other thing is that the insurance, the auto insurance, the vehicle insurance for the city is all privatized insurance. The health insurance for the city is in-house. Why not bring it all in-house, and then they won't be making so much of a profit. I don't have a problem with profit, people making a profit. What I do have is making a profit to hurt somebody else. And that, I'm talking flat across the board. If somebody's making a profit to hurt somebody else, that's not making a profit. Do you have any questions?
I have one, Daryl. Are we still meeting on Wednesday?
Huh?
Are we still meeting on Wednesday?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. There appear to be no other questions. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do.
Good evening. My name is Bob Lepke. I'm the president of the Northeast Community Center in Muldoon. This facility is managed by the Boys and Girls Club. We have a grant from the municipality of $181,400, which we really appreciate. We're due to take a grant cut of about $25,000, and I would appreciate if this would be reinstated. I think you heard from the Boys and Girls Club about all the great programs they have. But the Northeast Community Center is not only a Boys and Girls Club, but we have a lot of other users. I'd like to mention some of those users. It would be the Northeast Community Center meets there, Weed and Seed, Muldoon Elementary, Head Start, McLaughlin, Stay in the Game, Nanaca Valley Little League, Muldoon Elementary, Head Start. So we have a lot of users at this facility, and a $25,000 cut is really going to hurt us. So I'd appreciate it if this would be reinstated. I do appreciate you reinstating the grant for the Mountain View Boys and Girls Club. So again, we operate on $181,400. The Boys and Girls Club manages the facility, and we have a lot of other users. We have a terrific facility there, and we have a full-size gym. And if there are any questions, I'd answer those now.
There appear to be none, sir. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Hi, Chair Osiander, Assembly Members, Mayor Sullivan. My name is Mary Rasmussen, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the library, as most of you probably would have guessed. I really appreciate the hard work that all of you have been putting into this, because it's a kind of thankless job in the current economy, but I know you're up to the task. I'm just going to start with a few quick facts that are reminders of things you've been told over and over during the first two nights of testimony. And one is that the library is taking a 13.1% cut from its 2008 level. And that's a huge cut compared to most departments in the municipality. The other things I'd like to hit upon is in 2 nights of testimony, I was here personally for one, and I watched the other on TV. It was impressive, enthusiastic testimony for the library. There were huge numbers of people who came out and did testify. We as library users, 60% of the people in Anchorage have a library card. 171,000 people came through the door last year. 60,000 individuals in this community got involved in our community plan. And in the first 3 quarters of this year, we've had over 235 volunteers who've done over 4,300 hours of volunteer work. So there's people who really passionately care about the library. One of the things that concerns me is that on top of all this that I've just stated, especially all the testimony that came out, in looking at the S version, not 1 cent has come back to the library in this S version. And that just doesn't seem right by my standards. I know that originally there was some work to get the $600,000 back in, which I wasn't sure would fly past a mayor's veto pen, but at least we were trying to get some money back for the library. And I'm just really disappointed that with all this support, no money's coming back to the library on top of these facts and figures. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Mr. Gray-Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mary, thank you for coming out this evening, and thank you to everybody else for being here. But you're right, it was impressive and enthusiastic testimony, so much so that at the last meeting, there were 6 of us that voted to approve an amendment that I brought forward to put $600,000 back into the library and just for your reference, that approved amendment is still on the floor.
Oh, I understand that, and I was going to thank you for that, but then with the new S version, I thought that's the one I had to hit.
Well, the S version is not what's on the floor right now.
Aren't they both out there?
You can speak about any aspect of the budget at this time. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, there is. Dr. Sokri.
I think that the library has to kind of cover all your bases. I actually think that because we've passed it, and I supported that amendment, I'm not sure that it will be in the final version of the budget. And one of the things that I've looked into and other people on the Assembly have looked into is the potential for the utilities to pick up some of the gap in terms of the costs associated with the community service. And I think it would be worthwhile if the library what is it? It's the library. It's not the Library Foundation. Made application to ML&P and to the port, to those utilities, and actually coordinate with the administration along those lines, because I think that it's going to be important for you to cover all your bases. And if you're not funded one way, I think you need to be looking for ways that you'll be funded through other venues. Those in the past, ML&P has provided community grants to some community services, and although it can't fund public services, it can't fund the library directly, there may be some possibility that the foundation could receive some money.
May I address
Sure.
that? I appreciate the fact you're looking for other places, and when the foundation certainly are looking at other venues for trying to get money to the library. I guess I'm concerned that the library is a core service of the municipality, and as far as the ML&P funds, but really we can ask for money, you can recommend it, but there's no guarantee that we get it. And secondly, for them to give it to the library, as in for operating costs, I think that would be a dividend in regulatory problems.
They can't do that.
So,
they can give it to the foundation.
But to give it to the foundation might switch around what the function of the foundation is, which may need to happen.
Well, I voted for the amendment.
Oh,
I'm just explaining to you that in that same spirit, recognizing that the library is important, I think there's a potential that will be vetoed. I mean, I don't know. And so therefore, well, I'm not going to second guess that, but I do think that the library needs to be turning over every rock, and I think that it's at least a worthwhile rock to explore, that particular one. Because, and I think that there's a formal procedure that you can go through at least to explore that and be considered.
Yeah.
And that's happening right now. We're approving that budget as well.
The foundation is exploring a lot of different venues, and I think, though, often when you are out there looking for private sector money, one of the things that they look at is, do you have a base level of support from your government entity? And if we don't, then it's harder for us to raise money as a private foundation.
I'm completely sympathetic. Thank you.
Mr. Rasmussen, the other thing that I think has some merit, and I hope it happens, is a discussion between AMEA and the administration to allow a little bit of greater flexibility for part-timers and volunteers.
Okay. That was why I wanted to say that we've had all these hours of volunteers that we are using, and the current contract, I think, says that AMEA and the employees, which it represents, join the MOA in encouraging citizen involvement in the betterment of Anchorage. So it's not like it's been said we can't have volunteers, and we do have them in the...
We just need to work through what jobs they can do, I think.
Okay.
And it's not me, it's the administration and AMEA. But thank you.
I understand. Just like, as someone who's done a lot of volunteering, you can't do it all on volunteers' backs.
That's true.
Even with good volunteers.
You've got it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you. My name is Laura Norton Cruz. Thank you all for being here on a Monday night. I am a longtime East Anchorage resident, and I work with Anchorage United for Youth, a coalition of tribal, governmental, and nonprofit agencies working to improve youth in Anchorage working to reduce dropout rates, increase graduation rates, reduce substance abuse and delinquency. I've spent the last 6 months listening to people in Mountain View, to hundreds of people, to some of the children and teenagers in this audience, to their parents, grandparents, to elders and young people from every major ethnic group in Mountain View. And what I've heard from all of them, whether they're teenagers in a photo project that I've run, whether they're elders in a focus group, is that youth need meaningful, supportive activities. They need places to go. They need adult relationships. They need the Boys and Girls Club. One of the most common things I've heard in my research is that Mountain View has improved as a community in large part because of the Boys and Girls Club, because children have a place to go and teenagers can have meaningful work there, working with younger kids and developing skills. The community has improved and people feel safer there because of this. Still, people talk about, especially refugee populations that are newly arrived, talk about there not being enough for their teenagers to do. And I hear this most from the Hmong and Sudanese communities, that especially the Sudanese kids who are coming, who are lost boys, who are orphans, who have been in war, are coming traumatized, and they need to be involved in meaningful activities that help them. But instead, often they're getting involved in gangs. We've seen increases in gangs. We've seen more gangs in inter-Hmong violence. They need things to do. And so we cannot afford to cut. We can't afford to cut the Boys and Girls Club or other projects. In fact, we need more. We need more things for youth to do, including things in their languages, including reaching out to families in multiple languages and through culturally competent family services. I would advise taking the lead from the Triborough Anti-Gang and Youth Violence Task Force that's existed for a number of years and has the support of the U.S. Attorney and many others who have made clear recommendations about suppression of crime, early intervention and prevention. And from them have come the Anchorage United for Youth Coalition. They're doing incredible work, and I know a lot of you are familiar with and support this work. We need to continue going in that direction. We need the support of Mayor Sullivan in pushing forward programs to help youth. And I can just testify that working with children and youth in Mountain View, working with families, these families and children know what study after study has shown, that every dollar put into youth, into prevention, is a lot of money saved in reduced delinquency, reduced substance abuse. So thank you.
Ms. Johnston?
So you'd be supportive of the S version where we have reinstated the funds for the Boys and Girls Club in Mountain View?
I'm supportive of anything to instate more funds. I can't speak very much to the specifics of the budget. I can only testify that we can't have we need more. We need more in investment in youth and families. But yeah.
Thank you.
So are you basically telling us that this is the cheapest route for us, is to take care of the kids?
Yeah. We can see we can see that for every dollar invested in youth, some studies have shown there's $3.50 saved. A longitudinal study done a long time ago, started in the 60s, of preschool, showed that for every dollar invested in preschool, $7 is saved in increased economic productivity and decreased delinquency and substance abuse. So yes, I think it's the cheapest route.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Oscar Avellaneda, and first I want to say thank you. This is a hard time, but scarcity is at least good for something. We get to be creative and innovative. So I'm basically going to tell you tonight about the dots I create. I'm in many communities around town. I'm a community outreach coordinator with Off the Chain Bicycle Co-op. About a year and a half ago, I started volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club, just helping them build bikes and fix up bikes in the neighborhood. That has grown. I've actually invested in the community now. I hang out with these kids. I know some of these kids by names. They're waving their hands at me. And it's fun. But what's cool about it is I actually see them throughout the community later on. Besides that, this summer, what Lada was just talking about was the photo program we did. Chester and Bouzet are two kids over there that were teenagers that were actually involved in it. They helped give us knowledge about what this neighborhood is like and what it's like to be youth in this generation that it is. So I guess what I want you to think about is You've created this building where now you have to maintain it. I understand that, but you shouldn't pull it away because it actually serves a purpose. The Hmong community was having their, what was it called, their New Year's last night. There was a massive community there. It was just amazing. I stopped by accident. So what I'm saying is perhaps a more creative way to go would be go around, see who you could find to make more connectors and more opportunity creators within Anchorage amongst the programs and facilities you've created, because the library is one example of that. You guys are loaded with books and resources. This is equal to the internet, everything that's in here. All you need is people who have the skills and the abilities and want to pass on this knowledge to the people who want to learn it. And in this town, there's lots of people who want to know things about everything. So I would also encourage you to be creative, maybe think about, I don't know what's all tying up the budget in little pieces where maybe you could have high school students or something along the lines do things for you guys. Have them be the ones that research things out for you, see if there's ways to minimize costs along software, computer maintenance, because all that stuff is changing so fast. You guys may be on an antiquated system that needs to be updated and could even be free now with a lot of free software. So I really encourage you guys to be creative about that and just think about the programs that exist. Sullivan, thank you for the sidewalks. They look amazing this year. I'm a cyclist and I absolutely love it. They're clean as soon as it snows. I just tweeted you too, so thank you.
Hold on a second. Dr. Selkirk.
I just want to say thanks for all the volunteer work you're doing. And also, I think your ideas of engaging the community and activating all of us to do more for things that we have been paying for is a really great idea. And I think it's things that the mayor's been talking about and that we'll be working on. So write your ideas down, share them with us, and thanks very much for the work you're doing.
Cool.
Okay. Ms. Johnston?
Thank you for your entrepreneurial spirit, and may you do well throughout the community, and hopefully you'll be a light of entrepreneurial spirit, because that's what I think we all need, and I respect it greatly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Two things. I don't think our minutes clerk got the spelling of your name, so if after you speak you could go over to that lady over there and just spell out your name. And the second thing, the photo exhibit, I got an invitation. I appreciate it. Unfortunately, it's a bad time for me, but it's the 8th at Kaladi across the street.
The Kaladi downtown on 4th Avenue, and it opens up on the 4th at 5:30.
The 4th of January?
Of December.
Of December, I
Yes, and it'll be up for the entire month, so if you can't make it for the opening when the kids will be there, you could at least be there for the
pictures
to see
will
the
be
show.
up longer than that.
Yeah, it's part of the regular First Friday circuit.
Okay, well, it should be handy for assembly members to be able to drop in then, since it's across the street from City Hall.
Yep.
All right. Mr. Kleiman, you had a question?
Is it the Kaladi on 6th Avenue across from City Hall?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
exactly.
I heard 4th Avenue, and
I'm
I started.
sorry.
I was having
I
a
misspoke.
significant
I apologize.
geographic challenge.
I apologize.
And I just want to thank you as well. The Off the Chain Bike Co-op has been getting some periodic donations from my family, and it's a great resource, and it's good that rather than things like that going to the dump, they actually get used and keep people riding. So
We're actually going to send bikes out to Afghanistan now with the U.S. Air Force, so we're getting our Connex ready to send out.
Thank you.
Cool.
Remember, she needs your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Jackson. I am a lifelong resident of the municipality of Anchorage. I'm a taxpayer, and I'm concerned about the cuts to the budget for the Anchorage Fire Department, particularly prevention. I've raised 3 children here. We attend the library. We go on people mover buses, and we also go to people's homes, and my children have friends that live in apartment complexes and such, and I believe that fire inspectors are very important to the public safety, and we wouldn't realize that until, of course, maybe there's a tragedy that happens. I feel strongly about it personally because we've seen it happen in the not too distant past where, nobody really sees these unsung heroes, and also the fire department, their safety as well would be impacted, I believe, by the cutting of an inspector position. That's basically all the reason that I came here tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cindy Norquist. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a mother, and I'm also the volunteer director for a program called Healthy Futures. Don't worry, I'm not here asking for money. But I wanted to share a story with you. I got involved with Healthy Futures because I was concerned about childhood obesity. But I learned something. It's not about childhood obesity when we get our kids more physically active. It's actually about having a safer community. A number of years ago, the late Bonnie Sosa, I'm sure many of you know that name, created a program. It was a collaboration. The municipality Parks and Rec Department was part of it, as well as the university, as well as private sector entities. And she identified a school. It was Tyson Elementary. And what happened was we went into the school and we had what's called a structured recess. Because believe it or not, many kids don't know how to play. And so the kids had someone that modeled positive behavior in a positive, fun, physically active manner. What happened was it created a culture. More kids became involved. Kids that weren't participating in that specific group went on to be more physically active. But something else happened. On the days that Healthy Futures was at Tyson Elementary, where the kids had a safe place to be physically active, Tyson Elementary saw a 77.4% reduction in referrals to the principal's office. That means the kids were actually in the classroom learning, not sitting outside the principal's office feeling like a failure. This really translates to the before and after school programs for Boys and Girls Club and for Campfire. And I applaud you for the S version, and I hope that you do pass this. Because I believe in this community, and I believe in a community where I can raise my kids to feel safe. And if we spend the money on the kids, as was stated before, then we're not going to have to hire additional police officers. $50,000 for Campfire. What's the cost of one additional police officer if 77.4% of the kids that are affected by the before and after school programs become the statistics of dropout students, high school dropouts, teenage pregnancy, malicious crimes, or even those nuisance crimes that cost us all, as taxpayers, money. So please, make sure you invest in our kids, because if you invest in our kids, you do provide us the healthy futures that every parent here wants. Thank you.
Mr. Kleiman?
I hear that you're I'm over on this end. I hear your support for the S version. I know one of the things that's not included in that version is any meaningful increase or return to funding levels for libraries. And I'm just wondering, I understand your support for the S version on some of the programs that you're very supportive of, but does that make you comfortable with the S version for other programs like libraries that are not getting funded, or you think we need to do more work?
To be honest, I really think that there is an opportunity for cuts with the library. My husband is an engineer in town, and he attended a meeting quite a few years back, let's say 2 or 3, don't quote me on that, where the library was looking at how they could restructure one of the annexes because no one was using it. Well, as a taxpayer and a fiscal conservative, my answer would be if no one's using it and it's not really in a residential area, maybe we need to eliminate that and focus more of the money where the public is using the service. Obviously, now saying that, I would highly recommend that the annex in Mountain View and other lower socioeconomic areas would continue.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm just going to remind folks again, if you have the conversations going on, even in the back of the room, we're picking it up on the audio. So if you wouldn't mind just going outside for the conversations, it would help us with our audio pickup. Thank you. Please come forward.
Good afternoon, evening. Thank you. My name is Barb Dibowich, and I am here as the CEO of Campfire Alaska Council. And it was hard not to squeal when I came in. I heard about the S version. I want to applaud that. Thank you very much. I would just like to update you with some current information in regards to our council. We provide two different types of programs after school. Our largest program is our licensed child care program. It operates in 28 different schools, both in Anchorage and Eagle River. And we currently today have an enrollment of 1,223 kids. That's one of our highest in the last 3 years, so we're seeing actually an increase in enrollment. There are 210 youth on our wait list, and of our programs, 6 of them actually operate in Title I schools in the child care programs. I'm hearing myself breathe. This is a fee-based program where parents are required to pay for services, and we have 330 of the youth in these programs that receive some type of financial assistance with fees. In the last year, we've seen over a 30% increase in families on fee assistance. As I said, we've had a higher enrollment. There's 30 more children enrolled in the month of November than there was a year ago, and 60 more than 2 years ago. So again, you're seeing that increase. More parents are going back to work or are taking second jobs, and affordable child care is a major issue for most of those families. 55 families are currently receiving direct financial assistance from our agency. In the last year, 20 children, 20 elementary age children whose families were in shelters or in crisis were provided care at a reduced cost. On my desk today, for the month of December, we have requests pending for 8 new children for the month of December. We also provide community center programs in low-income neighborhoods, and they currently serve 140 youth. These programs are non-fee based, and 3 of them serve youth from Title I schools. And currently, at the program that John Quito spoke to, there are 5 kids on the wait list waiting to attend. Youth in our community center programs receive homework assistance, are engaged in a wide range of activities that include community service, and are provided with a meal each day. We are also currently finalizing our 2010 budget, and we've instated a salary freeze for all of our employees. Management staff are taking a pay cut, and there will be a reduction in our benefits to employees. So we have the agency running very lean. The $50,000 grant that's in the S version covers no overhead costs. Those dollars go directly into program services and to families. So I urge you to keep that in. I thank you. I applaud the Assembly and the Mayor for your time and efforts. Thank you.
Dr. Selkirk.
I want to applaud you for your time and effort. I think taking an enormous federal cut and trying to keep your program's doors open is real work, and I'm appreciative of the work that you're doing. I have some questions about how many schools in the system have a before and after school program? I mean, how many before and after school programs are there? You got a ballpark? I'm just like, are 15% of our schools served, or 20% of our schools in the system in the Anchorage School District served with before and after school programs?
This is a best effort without data in front of me. I do recall when I was working on a task force about 1.5 years ago that we determined 50% of the elementary schools had before and after school programs. So there was a large gap of non-served elementary schools. Now, how many after-school programs there are, I couldn't say that today. I would have to do some research for you.
So I guess what I'm wondering is how big is the need, and how well are we meeting that need in this community in terms of the overall need for after-school programs or before and after-school programs for children?
Well, I can only speak on behalf of CAM Fire, but, we've got over 200 kids on wait lists.
Right.
Every year we're getting requests from new schools for programs to be brought in.
Are you able to expand to those new programs?
Not today.
Well, I just appreciate your testimony. I think that the testimony that preceded your testimony was really poignant in pointing out the value saved, the money saved associated with these programs. And I'm hoping that that next year and in the following years that we can not only give you what you already have, but develop some strategies to grow these programs, because they really are a good investment. And I just want to say thanks for your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Assembly members, and Mayor Sullivan. My name is Wendy Eggleston, and I am a member of the Animal Care and Control Advisory Board. I'm not speaking for the board tonight, but as a volunteer for the animal shelter. In previous comments from the Mayor Sullivan during the other public testimonies on the budget, he supports the quality of life and safety, if I'm not mistaken. But I ask you, what is the meaning of quality of life? Is it arts, entertainment, the libraries? If you ask each person in this room, the meaning differs to person. What happens to the quality of life when an aggressive animal attacks them and calls the dispatcher at the animal shelter and no one is there to answer because the answering services is canceled due to the budget cuts? I spoke to an animal care and control officer and asked these questions, and he stated it would cause delay in investigations, delay in calls, and accurate injury pictures if needed. Do I want this to happen in my neighborhood? No, I don't, and I know you don't want to either. I want a reliable response time for the public protection and fully staffed officers, enforcement, dispatchers, kennel techs, and whatever is needed. If this doesn't happen, then 911 will receive these calls and impact APD and wasting even more tax dollars. Animal care and control is considered, in my personal opinion, the stepchild of Health and Human Services. Why would our budget be cut 13% with the only municipality shelter in the Anchorage Bowl? So cat trap replacements and the cat cages for the officer trucks and providing public safety education from the officers and staff as contract savings. Do you guys know what the $146,000 is for? I don't think so. I believe that there is a way that the city can save money, and these are just a few ideas. Do you know the staff, if the staff wants to put up a shelf, a nail, a hook, they have to call the municipality because it's a muni building. Isn't this a waste of tax dollars, gas, and time for putting up a simple shelf that anybody can do? My 10-year-old son could do it. It is a waste of money. Also, planting the flowers in the flower beds at the shelter doesn't need to be done by facilities or maintenance or the city. Volunteers will do it. I've asked them, and they would do it with enjoyment. Year to date, we've had over 67,000 volunteer hours. We can't give any more. We need the municipality's help. But the biggest saving, I believe, that would be the rewriting of the municipality code 4.05.50. Compensation members, I was shocked when I went to my orientation to be handed a waiver to see if I wanted to get paid $20 for each meeting. So we're now paying volunteers to volunteer for an advisory board. This is unacceptable. There's 70 advisory boards altogether. Some of them are advisory boards, some of them are not. If we paid each of these $20 per meeting at 12 meetings a year, it would be $151,200, give or take, that the city is paying. It's unacceptable to me as a taxpayer. Thank you.
My name is Mary Wanamaker. I am also a volunteer at the Anchorage Animal Care and Control. I go into the Anchorage Animal Care Control on mornings to give the dogs an early morning break from their kennels. And also, I go most afternoons to walk one or more dogs. This is a very fine organization which deserves your support. My requested action, that there be no decrease in the number of animal control officers. We should not fall farther behind national standards. The national standards is 17 officers. Our present officer level is 7. After proposed cut, 6.5, plus the dispatcher. The municipality of Anchorage Animal Care and Control Services Strategic Plan of January 27, 2006 recommends adding 1 new officer per year for 5 years, 2007 to 2011. Cutting the budget would be a move in the wrong direction and contrary to the strategic plan. The Anchorage public supports more officers. 58% of the Anchorage public support increased enforcement. 77% support adding more animal control officers. The above figures are from the Municipality of Anchorage Animal Care and Control Strategic Plan of January 27, 2006, which I have a copy if anyone would like it. No? You would? I think I gave everyone or had everyone handed this out, but I would like to add one more thing. It is logical to assume, I had this put in and I took it out, now I'm adding it. It is logical to assume that if Anchorage Animal Control cannot respond because insufficient staff, then responding to incidents of animal attacks and other incidents of animals will fall upon the Anchorage Police Department at a higher cost. Proper funding and staffing of AACCC is a humane thing to do. The municipality says we cannot afford new officers, and we need to cut the budget $146,000. However, I believe we cannot afford to not have new officers, and please do not cut the $146,000 from the budget. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you for listening tonight. My name is Matisse Wiley, and I am a homeowner in Fairview. I'm also a volunteer at Anchorage Animal Care and Control, and have seen the dedicated work the volunteers do there, as also as the urgent need for these services by the general public. There is a huge demand in our city for services from Anchorage Animal Care and Control, and they cover an uncommonly large area. They enforce from Girdwood to Eklutna, making Anchorage Animal Care and Control a very vital service for our public and health here in Anchorage. Excuse me. Because of the economy at this time, shelters nationwide are seeing an increase in demand for services, not a decrease. According to Anchorage Animal Care and Control's website, there's 7 officers and 1.5 dispatch currently answer an average of 800 calls for service a month. Those are in addition to the calls that come to the front desk. Animal cruelty is a public safety concern. The connection between violence to animals and people has been very well documented. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence reports 85% of women and 63% of children in shelters have been witnesses to incidences of animal abuse in their homes that they had fled from. Also, animal neglect can lead to animal attacks. According to the Center for Disease Control, biting dogs are likely to be unaltered and chained or tethered outside. These animals are often unsocialized and don't have the proper veterinary care or licensing by the municipality. We must work to protect our community by strengthening our humane standards of care. The promise of public safety requires that these services are considered essential and a part of our city. Thank you.
Mr. Flynn?
Ms. Riley, a pleasure to meet you in person.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you.
Hello, council members, assembly members, My name is William Cruz, and this is Alvina Joy Cruz, my daughter. And I am here today to talk about the Mountain View Center and the budget cuts that you guys are going to propose. We have 6 rows here of children that have gone to this center. I work for the state, but I am also a basketball official. I am a coordinator of events that occur at the Mountain View Rec Center. And your budget cuts will affect a whole bunch of these young kids. If you have not visited the Mountain View Rec Center, This past summer, the B315B League had 200 youngsters participate in their league. We are keeping children from the streets, out of the streets, and hopefully helping them understand that the streets are not for them. I come from an environment where drugs, violence, and death surrounded me each and every day. I am from the inner city of New York. And I understand that the neighborhood center is a great place for kids. It helped me and many of my fellow friends who still exist today, because there are a lot of us that don't exist today. And I'm hoping that my little speech today will help you understand what Mountain View Rec Center means to these children. And it does mean a lot. I've seen the increase in participation. We just finished a recent league where we had another 180 kids participate. And we're not talking teenagers, we're talking 5th, 6th graders, 7th and 8th graders. We create these leagues, we divide them so that everyone has a chance. We've also brought back girls basketball, which has been eliminated in Anchorage, and I don't know why we don't have a middle school for girls at all. So the Mountain View Rec Center has done something to change. I call it the decriminalization center, and I do that because I find that when we have our kids out in the streets, they'll get in trouble, and we all know that. I mean, I'm not sitting here blowing smoke. They will get in trouble, but if we give them somewhere to go, we give them some guidance, we can save, not all of them, but we can save most of them. And believe me, this center has done a lot. In the last 4 years that I've been the lead official, I've seen change. And there are a lot of kids in here today who then didn't respect me, but today have that respect. How you doing, Coach Cruz? And I take that as a gratification to see that these kids have changed and they're going to school, grades are better, parents participating. I would like to invite you guys out there one day when we're in full swing to see how we are working with these kids. And that's all I have to say. And I thank you for having me here today.
There are questions.
Yes.
Dr. Selkirk.
Would you ask the students and the children who are here to stand up, please? Just, it's nice to, I mean, they came out, it's nice to just recognize them. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much for your work.
Ms. Johnston?
I also wanted to have them stand up and thank them all for coming. I know that it's quite a little trip in here, and I'm glad that you can be here, and I appreciate you showing your support for the Mountain View Boys and Girls Club, and I hope with it will help us support the S version of the budget, which we've worked with the mayor, where we've reinstated the funds for the Mountain View Boys and Girls Club.
Well, I hope that in your challenge I can help, because when I get back from my long vacation, I am going to campaign to try to get more money as well for the Mountain View Rec Center to help, because I can't see these kids just having nowhere to go. We cut, personnel goes away, things that they do will not happen, and I've seen it grow. To lose it now, it would be an atrocity, you know.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Working in Mountain View, I've seen what you've done. I've been out there when you guys are in full swing, and it's impressive. And I want to thank you for the work that you've done, because you've made a huge difference in the neighborhood, and people who live in the neighborhood can tell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
All right, we got it.
That's it.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
yeah.
Come on, Mama. Say bye-bye.
Good evening. My name is Jack Fitzpatrick. I'm the president of the East Thunderbird Condo Association. I'm here on behalf of 46 members. We appeared before you about the same period last year and presented our problem with a collapsed storm drain. And you sent forward to the state a request for funding, and no funding, and the water's still running. Several months ago, we had a meeting set up by Ms. Jackson and the mayor, and we actually met with the city manager and his staff and presented what I thought was a pretty good photographic representation of the problems we have in our crawl spaces with the water because of our collapsed sewer drain, which, by the way, has been collapsed for more than 15 years. And So I thought when we left the meeting, everybody was in agreement that we're going to ask the state for the money again, and we're also going to put it on as a bond issue. Now I understand it's not part of a bond issue. So I'm here to ask you, we need both pieces of this to make this work. We need some relief. I mean, we're spending thousands and thousands of dollars a year on maintenance in our crawl spaces, mold remediation, you name it, we're doing it. And we just want some relief, and we want it as quickly as we can get it. We've been living with this for too long.
We haven't decided on bond issues yet, but it will be coming up in February.
We want to be at the top of the list.
I hear you. Ms. Gray Jackson has a comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Jack, for coming out this evening. And Madam Chair, what he's referring to is the capital budget and the funding source right now. And there are projects in the capital budget that have bond funding sources. That's where we start.
Oh, I see. I
yes.
misunderstood.
And thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you for hearing all of these wonderful testimonies today. I also am on, my name is Shelley Hennessy, by the way.
Thank you.
Vice President of the Condo Association with Jack Fitzpatrick that you just heard from. He pretty much gave an overview of most of it. I would like to speak to you as not just leader of the Action Committee that we've been working on so hard for the last couple of years, but also as one of the homeowners that is suffering very badly from this problem. I can give you a current status really quick of what's going on. I spent probably about 3 days down in the crawl space of my house last week. Think about this for just a moment. We're in the middle of winter. Everything should be frozen. Nothing should be running. And yet we have a river running through. I had one of 2 sump pumps go down that are active constantly throughout the last 3 years that I have owned this condo. Just one of them went down, and I had 4 inches of water. I had to get that thing going as quick as I could because this is something that several of the houses are affected by, and they are duplex-style condos on my side of the street. I flood, the other guy floods. And it's just getting worse and worse. And no matter what happens, whether this is a budgeted item, something that you're planning to fix, that we finally get a plan for, it's going to either get dealt with as a planned repair, or it's going to get dealt with as something that will have to be responded to in an emergency situation eventually. I've watched the ground drop underneath my house. The foundation is cracking. It's going down very gradually over the last 3 years, and just over the last year, it's getting worse faster and faster as we go. So the city's going to have to respond to it one way or the other. I'm just hoping it won't be digging me out of a sinkhole, me in the middle of my house with my dog and my cats and all the people that are surrounding me wondering what happened. We've been working really hard on this, and we want to thank you for your support in the past in forwarding this to the state, and we just want to bring it up on the radar that, like he said, we're representing a whole lot of people in our condo association. We also, I think I can speak confidently for the other 20 homes in the single-family residences across the street that are just as passionate and wondering what's going on with this. So I hope that you will vote in favor to help fund our project as soon as possible so that we can get it fixed. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Richard Langtow, and I know you guys probably think I'm here just for my extraordinarily youthful good looks, but I'm not. And Mr. Mayor, I feel for you, brother, for that bag of garbage you inherited. And I got a few things. I guess I'm probably the only one here that's not asking for a handout. Okay. One is, all this money that everybody's asking for, I don't know why we can't get volunteers, not only from the community, but from the corporate community. For instance, like the flower beds and stuff like that, or from the pet shelters or whatever. Why can't we get somebody like BP or FedEx or something like that to come out and sponsor some of this stuff? You know, we'll say they give $50,000 or $100,000 or even $5,000, be able to put their name up on a plaque or something like that and say, you know, maintained by funds from, you know, FedEx or whatever, you know. I think that'd be a worthy try anyway. Another thing is I'm not real sure, but I haven't seen anywhere, where God or Jesus or Buddha or anybody ever said, you know, of the enlightened people, I guess you could say, or masters, where they said to take from one group of struggling people to give to another group, okay? To me, that makes no sense, okay? That's not what I believe God intended, for us to take from one group, basically by gun, to give to another group, okay? And my thought is I've worked with people that said, you know what, I wouldn't mind if the government took more of my money to help somebody else out or whatever. That's fine. If you have that much darn money, give it to the government. But don't ask the government to take from me to give to somebody else or to support somebody else's pet project. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, whenever you guys start giving money out for whatever reasons, okay, these pet projects, it never gets reduced, okay? And every year, people are out there with their hand out for more money, okay? You guys never seem to find it, you know, in your common sense to say, you know what, we don't need this project. We can let the private sector or whatever handle this stuff, you know? Another thing is if we're hurting that much for money in the city owns a crap load of damn land, okay? I know, because there's some right behind my house that you guys, nobody can use it because it's between my property and my neighbor's property, probably 100 yards away behind me. And it's a small strip of land that nobody can use. It's wooded, it's on a hill, okay? There's no real access to it except for by walking. And you guys' infinite wisdom, or somebody's infinite wisdom in the city, says, you know what? That is our property. We're going to call it a park, okay? And we're going to charge this fool an extra $5,000 this year because he's next to a park. I can't tell you how much horse crap that is. You guys need to put an end to that, okay? Because next thing you know, you guys are going to say, you know what? We got moose and bear that enter the city. This whole thing's a damn park. Everybody's property's going up, okay?
You have to summarize here. Your time's up.
Excuse me?
I said you're going to have to summarize. Finish up. Your time's up.
No problem. I'm done. Okay. You guys have a good day, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Steve Colt. I live in Airport Heights. And I'm here to talk very briefly about debt service payments. I oppose any attempt to defer, postpone, or roll over our scheduled payment of debt service, and I think we should pay it when it's due. And while I have the microphone, I would also like to thank the mayor, the administration, and all of you for the great job we're doing with sidewalks. Thank you.
Dr. Selkirk has a question for you.
What's your background?
Well, I am an economist by training and by profession.
And why are you opposed to this?
Well, it seems to me we should pay our debts when they're due. And the only reason one would want to defer or postpone debt is if you could get some meaningful reduction in the interest rate, or there was some other compelling benefit that would justify it.
And have you examined this? That you can't. I mean, why don't you think there's a benefit here? We don't have to pay it this year. I mean, I'm just. Yeah. Why don't you see this as a benefit?
Because I have not seen any information that we would get a significant reduction in interest rates or any other benefit that would justify it.
So basically, we're just deferring it to our children?
Basically, it's just a maneuver to kick the can down the field a little bit.
Thank you.
Mr. Klayman.
You teach at the university?
Yes.
When we were discussing, there was an amendment to the budget at the last hearing, and by a divided vote, the Assembly voted to take that, not to go forward with this, what they call refunding, and to basically pay it this year. The mayor ultimately sent a message vetoing that amendment. And if I recall the debate that was going on, there were some that felt, we were in a budget crisis, and others that didn't think we were in a budget crisis. And I'm just curious, from your perspective as an economist, what place would you look at, or where would you start saying you had a crisis economically in kind of looking at a debt refunding proposal?
Well, I think whether we are or are not in a budget crisis is a matter that we could debate extensively, but whether or not, let's suppose we think we're in a crisis or we want to avoid one. One of the first things I did when I moved to Anchorage 25 years ago was go to avalanche school. And I learned very quickly that if you want to survive an avalanche, you need to avoid it. And if you want to avoid an avalanche, you should stay off the steep slopes. And if, as we pay down debt, we're taking ourselves from a more steep fiscal slope to more navigable terrain, shall we say, and reducing our risk. As we fail to pay down debt, or as we take on more debt, it seems to me we are increasing our risk of incurring a real fiscal crisis if and when the financial system seizes up or comes close to seizing up like it did last year.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Ms. Johnston.
You live on an ARTSA road?
Excuse me?
Do you live in the municipality, and are you serviced by ARTSA?
I live in Airport Heights on a public road.
Right. So you have ARTSA. Your maintenance is by what's called the Anchorage Road Service District. And are you familiar what the plan is as far as this refunding, that we're just looking at refunding the series, a number of bonds that are series 2010 and series 2011, correct? Are you aware of that?
I'm not familiar with the details of this proposal.
So would you like to actually understand, do you understand, are you comfortable with net present value calculations?
I'm not familiar with any present value calculations. I'm here to speak basically as a matter of, as a citizen, and as a matter of rather a simple principle.
Let's go back then to ARTSA. This weekend we had a little hiccup as far as our snow plowing. And a number of people who actually are constituents of mine and everybody else. Actually, I think our phones were off the hook, and we had a lot of emails because a lot of roads weren't plowed. And some of these bonds that are refunded, are looking at refunding, are part of this Anchorage Road Service District. Now, we're going to be having more and more trouble servicing these roads. And we are going to have more and more constituents wondering why their taxes are increasing as large as they are and their services are dropping. So for that, just with that concept, the refunding is looking at 2 years. We probably won't be refunding all of it. You just have to have a plan to do it. But for the next year, we're looking at not increasing these folks' taxes as much as we would have to if we didn't refund. Plus, their services are going to probably drop. So how would you deal with that? And I would like you to look at, I think you'd find it, as an economist, it would be interesting if you looked at what we were funding, how much we were funding, what the proposal is, what the net present value of refunding the 2 years, the $22 million, and it's about $330,000 for both years of refunding, if we even do both years. And I think, as an economist, I think you probably, I know a little bit about avalanches too. And in fact, I've done avalanche training, and actually I've taught avalanche training. And I understand steep slopes. And I also understand knowledge is very important. So anyways, that's my question to you, what you would do as somebody in my place with constituents and taxes. Thank you.
I'm not sure what your question was, but
Good for you.
I think the question you said was, how would I solve the problem of insufficient revenues and too much costs? It would be great if I could tell my wife, hey, honey, I deferred the mortgage for a month. Let's go on a vacation to Hawaii. But my wife wouldn't buy that as any kind of long-term solution to our fiscal challenges.
Okay. Have you ever refinanced?
I have refinanced, but I've never done it in a way that stretches out the payments, and I've only done it when there was a significant benefit from a lower interest rate.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for your testimony. I appreciate your comments about the sidewalks. The two things, there's any number of reasons why you would do something like this other than the ones that you mentioned. And one, as a small business owner myself, I'm not an economist, but in the real world running a small business, there are times when cash flow management is very important. And right now, this refunding allows us cash flow management. It does cost us a little bit in the long term, but in a situation like we're in today, where we're in a budget that literally is over $20 million in deficit, to have cash flow management is a good thing. Now, this particular refunding doesn't directly help the operating budget, but it saves the taxpayers $12 million in taxes this year. And when times are tough and the taxpayers are feeling it out there, the ability to not add another $12 million to their tax burden, we think is important. And so for that purpose alone, it makes some sense. The other thing is you made a good analogy about avoiding avalanches is the best way not to be in an avalanche. So would your recommendation to the Assembly last December have been, in a time of declining revenues, don't add to the expenditures of the city dramatically? Would that be good advice to avoid an avalanche?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not, your question is a little bit hypothetical. I'm not really sure what it was or how best to answer it.
Sure. Well, last December, the Assembly approved contracts that added almost $200 million to the cost of government in a time of declining revenues. As an economist, would you say that's a prudent move?
As an economist, I would have said that's a political judgment for the people to make.
Okay,
and a good judgment? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez, and
Sir.
there are about 3 members still in line for questions.
Excuse me.
And I'm going to urge everybody to ask questions instead of just generally. Right.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm not going to badger or lecture you for the next 5 minutes. I actually
know.
have a question for you.
Go ahead, Mr. Gutierrez.
You mentioned that paying down debt puts us on a more even financial footing. I'm curious, I've heard talk from some people, we have a tax cap. We may not tax more than X, and there's a very complex formula how we get there. Would there be a benefit to a debt cap, a bonding debt cap that would sort of correspond with that? You may not add X amount of debt in a given year.
There might be, but you're asking me about a major policy that I'm completely unprepared to testify about tonight.
I appreciate that. I'm sorry. I was just curious since we had you here. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Coffey?
Do you know what the total bonded indebtedness of the city and the school district are?
No.
Oh, okay. Then that's it. It's the only one I wanted to ask. Are you curious? If you're not, I'm done.
I'm curious about a lot of things, and I am look forward when I have a free moment to learning the details of the refunding as an economist, but I have to say it's not my top priority for my next free moment.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Hi, my name is Diana Brandt. I just wanted to offer a supportive statement to reinstating the funds for the Boys and Girls Club. I currently have 3 kids that attend the Mountain View Center, and they've been enrolled there for the past 2 years. With a funding reduction, my family would face many challenges. As a working parent, the Boys and Girls Club has had a great impact on our family. With a schedule of 8 to 5, I find a tremendous amount of relief knowing that I can take my children to the Boys and Girls Club to be delivered to school and picked up by people that they trust, respect, and see as family. My family has become very close with the staff and members' families in the past 2 years. The environment there is truly a community. If funding is not granted, my children will not have a safe, dependable environment before and after school. As with many families, daycare challenges with regard to work can cause conflict to the point of termination. There are many families that depend on the early bird program and transportation provided. Over the past 2 years, I have watched the membership number grow and staffing decrease. The Boys and Girls Club in Mountain View has a great number of attendance every day. If the adult-to-children ratio is thrown off more than it currently is, this would only be causing an unsafe environment for our children. A decrease in staffing would not provide enough supervision for the hundreds of children that take pride in their membership there. Thank you.
Mr. Coffey, you had another? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
We're going to take about 3 more people, then we have to take a short break.
My name is Tasha Hodge, and I'm here to support the Mountain View Boys and Girls Club as well as the bus system. I have a child who attends the Mountain View Boys and Girls Club. His name is Patrick. He's right over here on the corner. I believe I sent you guys an email that you may have had the chance to read in the last couple of weeks. But I volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club. I believe in the programs that they offer there. I've actually been trying to volunteer more, but there's enough programs going on that there's no time for me to teach the children the things that I'd like to be able to do. And the bus system, I have a sister that's mentally challenged. She's in her 20s, and we've been teaching this group of people to be self-sufficient, and I think when we cut services that make it so that they're able to be self-sufficient, that we're handicapping them further. And that's it.
Thank you for coming.
Assembly members and Mayor, my name is Charlotte Dennis. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Boys and Girls Club, so one more Boys and Girls Club person up here. I did want to speak a little bit about the questions that were raised regarding the Eagle River Boys and Girls Club, but I also want to take just a second for a couple of statistics from an economic standpoint, looking at return on investment. Some of the statistics are cited, the numbers are all over the place, but if a high school dropout who turns to a life of crime can cost between $1.7 and $2.3 million to the economic system. Cost for one youth at McLaughlin Youth Center is $200 a day or $73,000 a year per kiddo. We serve the McLaughlin kids at the Mountain View Community Center at this point in time because of funding cuts that you guys have all been following in the news and in our press releases. We have increased demand for services because parents are taking a second and a third job to make it in these tough economic times. So having the support services out there for these kids is a return on the investment. You're talking about $50,000 for Mountain View, $25,000 for the Northeast Community Center. Think about the return on that investment for this community when you will have tax-paying citizens contributing to the economy in another 10 years or so. Regarding the Eagle River site, that is not a community center. It is a Boys and Girls Clubs in very small space donated by MEA. We've been in that location for little over 20 years, and it's because we have contributions from MEA for the facility as well as support of the community financially that we're able to fund that. The budget for that center is about $150,000 in cash, but we wouldn't make it with just that amount of cash without all the volunteers that we have. The military in particular completely supports our efforts at the Eagle River Boys and Girls Club, and they indeed help us provide the transportation, getting kids to and from the elementary schools and the middle schools to the clubhouse facilities. So the Boys and Girls Club has had extensive funding cuts, and we have adapted. We have been very quick on our feet to adjust. I could go through the litany of what we've done to accommodate it, but we really, really, really would encourage the mayor and the assembly to seriously consider restoring those funds at the level. And someday when we want to talk about a real community center for Eagle River, the demand has been out there for 20 years. We cannot meet that demand for a full-fledged community center, but we are able to get a Boys and Girls Club there, and I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Selfridge.
What was the program at McLaughlin? I'm on this side.
It was a targeted reentry program. We worked specifically with getting the youth there involved in our programs, which helped them to meet the qualifications for high school graduation, and also job skills so that they knew how to put resumes together, interview for jobs, hold out what it takes to hold down a job, and to be a contributing member of the community.
How much money did you save by cutting that program?
The budget there was a little over $200,000 a year, and we currently have one staff now that's housed at the Mountain View Community Center that will be servicing those youth as best we can with the hours that person can work with them.
And how many students, or how many people from McLaughlin were you serving?
I would have to turn to someone else for that information. I don't have it.
You could get that back. Get me.
Yes,
you don't have
yes,
to
we can.
that now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are going to have one more speaker, and then we're going to take a break. But because I don't want you to lose your place in line, we're going to have you write on a piece of paper in order so that they can not. Okay. Come forward, sir.
Hello. My name's Travis Cox. Here, I notice everybody's asking for something, so I'm going to ask for something on what I think is the majority of voters that live here in Anchorage. Please let us keep our money. Cut the budget. Please cut the budget. I know that you Socialist Six, and I'm going to call you off by name, Miss Selcraig, Gutierrez, Drummond, Flynn, Gray Jackson, and Kamen. I hear everybody whining about the buses being cut. Y'all need to stand up and tell these people why the buses were cut. It's because you signed contracts with that thief, Mark Bagich, and you raise our taxes, and we can't afford it. We're in debt, $20 million because of you people. Y'all need to take responsibility for your actions. You're the ones that caused it, not that man over there. That man over there is trying to get us back on steady ground. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for that. But we want to keep our money. We're tired of you taking it. People out here are just plain tired of it. You know, I'm living on the edge. I know a lot of other people that live right on the edge. We're not getting pay raises. If you haven't heard, we're in an economic crisis. Y'all might have more money than you know what to do with. You're a doctor. You're a professor. Y'all got a lot more money than we do.
Excuse me, I'm not a professor.
I'm a professor.
Folks,
Oh, you're a professor. I'm sorry. I got them backwards then. But either way, y'all have more money and you know what to do. We don't. We live on a budget. We're not getting pay raises. When you take more out than we make, we go in the hole. What do? We have to sell our homes. We have to move. We have to do other things. You're a bunch of elitists that know how to spend our money better than we do. Why don't you cut a park? Because you know what? The people that live in Anchorage, the number of people that live here has been decreasing for the last 4 years. The number of students have been decreasing, and you have been doing nothing but adding to the budget. Fewer people and more budget. Why can't you just cut it? Why can't you cut the budget? Why can't you look at it and say, hey, guess what? Maybe we don't need this park. Or maybe we'll put donation boxes out. Or maybe we'll ask for the people that want donations to keep these after-school programs going, parents to donate, people to volunteer. There's plenty of people out there, right? So why don't we ask them to do that? Let's do something and let people keep the money. I'm asking you to let us keep our money and quit raising our taxes every year. We cannot keep doing it. I'm not a genius, but I have taken a few economics classes. Apparently, you people have not ever taken Economics 101. Because if you ain't got the money, you don't spend it, and you don't steal what you can't afford. You let us keep our money. Everybody back here is doing nothing but asking you to spend my money for me. I can't afford it anymore. And there's a lot of people out here that can. I'd say the majority can't. There are people losing their jobs every day. If you cut a park, you can hire more police officers. You can hire more firemen. You can keep them on the job, right? How many parks do we need, people? How many? Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Mayor. And please, don't let them go over your budget. Don't let them raise our taxes. Veto it, because it takes 8 of them, and you will not be able to overturn your veto. Please.
Thank you very much. For this time, we're going to take about a 20-minute break. Then we're going to come back and listen to more people. Thank you. We're in recess.
Before you tonight. I am a very grateful citizen of Anchorage. I have a wonderful quality of life. Why? Because the Muni provides just incredible services for my family and myself. We have police and fire protection. We have access to incredible parks and trails. The library with thousands of titles of wonderful books at our fingertips. And amazing schools. My daughter goes to Bayshore Elementary School, and the quality of education she's getting is tremendous. So I think that's very important to note for Assemblyperson Johnston and Assemblyperson Birch. I am a homeowner, and I am represented by those 2 assembly members I just named, and I'm here to tell them that I am willing to pay the property taxes necessary to keep the services that so add to the quality of my life and my family's life. I applaud your efforts with the S version for transportation specifically, though I know there's some additional cuts to the library that didn't make it into the S version, is my understanding from your comments, sir, tonight. I have access to personal transportation. But so many of our citizens, so many of our neighbors do not have access to public transportation. Reading the article in Friday's paper about the closure for the Black Friday event, the 10,000 individuals who were left without their primary mode of transportation disturbed me. That's unacceptable. We can do so much better for our citizens, and we should. I, again, want to say how important the S version is for transportation specifically, because people so need to get to work, they need to get to appointments, and they need to get to the grocery store. Activities that many of us with personal transportation take for granted. Again, I am willing to pay property taxes, the property taxes necessary to keep the services that make Anchorage a wonderful place to live. The quality of life here is wonderful. We want that same quality of life for all of our citizens. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you. Heather Anthony Pierce.
Hello, good evening. My name is Heather Anthony Pierre. I live in Mountain View, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club in Mountain View, and basically all the Boys and Girls Club all over Anchorage, Alaska. I've lived in Mountain View now for 31 years. I was one of the original kids that used to go to the Boys and Girls Club when it was a tiny little hut. And I'm very passionate about this because if it wasn't for the Boys and Girls Club, I wouldn't be where I am today. I worked at the new Boys and Girls Club. I volunteer there. My daughter was raised in the Boys and Girls Club. And I just feel like for funding to be cut is completely wrong. You know, these are children. We're trying to save lives here. You know, we all have a part to do in saving these children's lives. And it's either we let them be in the streets because idle hands is the devil's playground, or we do something to save these children and keep the budget for the Boys and Girls Club. We need more staffing. We need cameras, meals, field trips to enlighten and broaden their horizons. Because how does a child know what they can be if you don't allow them to experience it? One day they may be one of you up on the board. You never know. This is their sanctuary. And for you to take any kind of funding from the Boys and Girls Clubs, it's completely and totally wrong. The children need, the parents need for this to, be the right thing for everyone to do. And I feel in everybody's heart here, you guys will make the right decision in regards to saving these children. So I'm very passionate about this. This is just really big when it comes down to it, if you really look at the whole picture. These children are growing, and we need to teach them the difference between right and wrong. We need to allow them to have a place for them to grow and for us to be able to nurture them and enlighten them about life and teach them, It's really hard when you see a child that lives in an environment where the parent is not at home or is drunk, alcoholic, on drugs. They go home, there's no one there. They're hungry, no one to help them with their homework. The Boys and Girls Club provides that for them. And for you guys to take that from them, you're leaving them no choice but to be in a dead-end road. And this is what we're doing with our future. With our future children, this is what we're going to do with them? I don't think so. I think everybody needs to put their heads together and really, really do something about this whole situation. So I just want to thank you on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club, and hopefully in your hearts you'll do the right thing and focus on the lives that you're saving, not focus so much, yes, I can understand your roads and the animals and all that, but we're dealing with human beings here, lives, children. So let's do the right thing.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn has a question.
You have any questions?
Ms. Peter, just thank you for coming down. Your passion is evident, and we're doing our best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Abby Rodriguez?
Good evening. My name is Gabby Rodriguez.
Pull the speaker down. Could you do the microphone? You're quiet, and we can't hear you.
No,
so.
I'm just have been nervous.
You're fine, but if you get this microphone right by your mouth, then we can thank you.
Okay.
Super.
Like I said, my name is Gabby Rodriguez. I'm a single parent. I have 3 children. And my daily routine is this for behalf of the Boys and Girls Club at Mountain View. My routine is Monday through Friday. I leave my house at 7 o'clock, take my son to West High, take my daughter, which is Natalia. She attends there since this year. I'm very thankful for their transportation. But if you take this transportation, this grant, I'm going to have to relocate my daughter, and that's a 2-day process. Because why? I have to figure out if they're going to have after-school program before school and everything like that. And like I said, my routine is Monday to Friday, take my son to West High, my daughter to Mountain View Boys and Girls Club, then drive back and drop off my little boy, who's 2 years old, at the babysitter's. And then from there, I have to drive to Raspberry to my work. That's one way. And then coming back. But if you take this transportation, I'm going to literally have to work a Saturday to make up 10 hours of work. And, like Miss Heather said, it would be devastated to see these kids, growing kids, on the street. If this is the world that we're going to have for our children, what's the use? You're putting these kids in danger, not in a safe place. You're just taking them from a safe place to danger, putting them in drugs, alcohol, selling themselves, getting people playing with their minds and everything like that, and it's not fair. I used to work for the Boys and Girls Club out in California, and it was a blessing. And I thank Ms. Vicki, Mr. David, Ms. Jenny, that has supported us in this transportation. And please, don't take that away. This is our future for our kids. If it is, give them a chance to grow in good places. But don't take this away from them. Me as a single parent, it's hard. It's not easy. Thank you.
Just a second. Dr. Selfridge?
Yes.
I wanted to thank you and your family for coming out, and I also wanted to let you know that the administration and the Assembly have worked together, and I think the Boys and Girls Club money will be in place. I'm hoping that it'll be there for all, both Muldoon and Mountain View. But I wanted to say thank you very much for coming down and for bringing your family down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl Richards?
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Richardson, and when I was in line with the ladies, we did agree, all of us, that we would like to know the bonded indebtedness of the municipalities. So I encourage Mr. Coffey to provide that number.
$1.3 billion.
I think you joke.
No.
With a B.
Billion.
Oh. We'll discuss this later. You heard me testify before. I'm here to speak about transit, and I usually start off with a statistic that our service has not regained the level, just the number of buses and the number of hours they're operating that we had in the early 1980s. Our population has now grown 40%. I used to say 30, but now we're up to 40% growth in our population. I have a fact that I emailed a few of you, and I think it bears looking into. With Ms. Gray's help, I learned some things, but in June of 2009, the federal government changed one of their stimulus rules to allow us to use capital dollars to operate for transit operating. It was a huge breakthrough at the federal level. They took some stimulus dollars, flipped it with a 10% allowed into operating, and we got $500,000 that year in not sure what month, but the rule was made in June. For 2010, they're looking at $596,000 coming into transit. From what I can tell, I'm not an economist or a budget analyst, but what I can tell, the $500,000 was shown in People Mover's budget, and the $596,000 is not. So I think that's a very important piece, and I hope that you folks will solve that problem. Find out where's that $596,000, because as far as I can tell, it's just coming in as long as we live this year. I mean, we don't have to do anything fancy to get this money. The cut from 2009 to 2010, you'll notice, is at $485,000. So I'm concerned that transit is getting twice. I'm concerned that they're giving the federal cash, plus they're giving straight cuts at $485,000. Just for comparison purposes, it doesn't make sense to me that we're arguing or worrying about $500,000 for transit when they're spending $20 million to study the freeway through Fairview, a $700 million project. So the proportion, we're out of proportion here in how we're spending our dollars. That freeway will come in at over $200 million a mile. It's vastly expensive, and I think it's time that we got our priorities straight. Thank you for the $1.3 billion number. I wish we would have more trend information about our budgets and our performance in our different departments, especially transit and roads, police, fire, the rest of them too. The new federal legislation is coming through who knows when. It's been postponed once already, but new federal transportation law, remember Don Young did the Safety Lou legislation? They're expected, right now, they hope to give us the choice at the local government level whether to spend the federal dollar on transit or roads or walking or other issues. So I want us to be prepared as a city to not automatically have to put all of our dollars back into roads the way we do year after year. So I'm not asking you just not to cut transit. I'm asking you to figure out how to grow transit. I think the only way, we can start, the only thing that comes to my mind is to put together an assembly task force, and with particular goals where that more of us can walk, that we don't have to drive all the way across town to Raspberry, where we have affordable housing near our jobs, and that streets that are safe for walking, which is not exactly true today. I'm looking for long-term secure funding for transit, and there are two sources. As I said, potentially the federal government is poised for the first time to give us transit operating money, certainly now in the stimulus, but also in the long term. Secondly, you already have a resolution that you passed last year, I believe, seeking state funding, and we need to follow through on that. Legislators I talked to hadn't even heard about it right after you folks passed that. Looking to use existing resources such as the highway-to-highway environmental impact statement dollar, those $20 million, use some of those dollars to link land use and transportation in Anchorage. Today that's not happening. They're simply looking at different routes, frightening neighborhoods all over town about where to punch the freeway through. This is a huge opportunity for us to try to put our housing policies and our commercial development together with transit and road improvements as well. So I'll end there.
No question.
No, I don't actually.
No? I have one. You and I talked some weeks ago, and my memory is that the stimulus dollars were there for this budget. So can you tell me where you got the information that they were not?
I got that from municipal staff, and then I talked to Ms. Gray Jackson.
Okay, well, I'd like some clarification on that, because the document I saw.
Madam Chair?
Just a moment, I was looking to the administration, but.
Well, since Ms. Richardson mentioned the fact that her and I talked and she got the information from me, I'd like to.
All right, you respond, and then I'd like the administration to respond.
That's fine, Madam Chair. Thank you. But anyway, I looked in the budget and I saw in revenue fund 9331 for 2009 to $500,000, and then when I looked for 2010. And the same revenue, I didn't see it. So, and that's where I got my information from, the budget document. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Well, that's where I got mine too, so I would like clarification. Is it possible to get it tonight, or is it something that needs to be researched?
Madam Chair, I would prefer to research it. What do you want me to do, read something? Okay. I do have an answer here.
Okay.
I will read it from the iPhone.
Thank you.
Okay. The stimulus funding is recorded as an IGC, an intergovernmental charge, account 7403, to the grant. The revenue from FTA is budgeted in the grant in Fund 485. So, I mean, we do not budget grants directly in our operating budget, so that might be part of the disconnect.
We are using stimulus dollars for transit in 10, are we not?
Correct. Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Richardson.
I'd like to, perhaps we can get that track in writing so people like me can understand it.
Yeah.
Dr. Jody.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Charlene, I think it's Hayes. I apologize. I can't read the writing very well.
Good evening, Assembly members and Mayor Sullivan. My name is Charlene Harris. I'm a dedicated volunteer at Anchorage Animal Care and Control. I would like everyone that owns a pet or has owned an animal to stand up.
We have a pet.
This $146,000 budget cut will affect all that have stood, and all the ones that did not. Did you know if the municipality rewrote the cat portion in Title 17 and required cat licensings of $15 per license, this would cover our budget cuts on top of giving the shelter extra money for the funding of our future spay and neuter clinic? There are many volunteers, over 300 volunteers, many young, old, teenagers, and more. People volunteer, they spend so much of their money and so much of their time volunteering.
All the volunteers try hard to keep the animals more comfortable. People consider animals their kids. Would they like for their kids to be kenneled and caged without people to come in contact, or to have them caged? Or to have their cages coated in feces? If it weren't for the volunteers and the people that you're trying to cut, these animals would suffer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tom McGrath.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the Assembly, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to say thanks to the city for this morning when I came to work on Spenard Road. All the snow was gone, sidewalks were clear, and I'm sure all the walkers and the people that ride that bus route really appreciated it. Thank you. Tonight, I'm reminded of a movie that I saw once. Johnny Brasco in the movie Key Largo was asked what he wanted. And he said, I want more. I just want more. And after looking at the rates from cities, states, and countries where I visited in the last year and used public transportation, in comparing those rates to Anchorage, we just can't buy a bus rider in Anchorage. How much are we going to spend trying to do the same old thing? We want good, basic public transportation, but what we're doing is not working. We aren't there yet. We haven't done enough. Free is not good enough, folks. Free is just not good enough. UAA, students, faculty, and staff all ride free. Yet when you look at the bus going down 36 University, it's empty. Colorado Springs, London, Portland, they're all more expensive than us. And especially Colorado Springs has a very, very simplified schedule for rates. It's more expensive than us, but their transportation system's better. So we're just not doing something right. It isn't just throwing money at something. This year, you're going to spend $19.5 million. You're going to get back 3.5 in revenue. So $16 million, and you can't get people to ride the bus. Why do we keep trying to do the same thing since 1980, over and over and over? It's not working. So instead of just throwing more money at it, let's try to fix it. One question I had is, you have employer-sponsored passes, but do municipal employees ride free, or is it a benefit, or is it a ESP paid for by the municipality?
Do we know?
Yes. Municipal employees do ride free. The municipality, however, does not pay an additional cost to transit.
Boy, can my employees ride free? What a deal. I mean,
the university, they do pay a lump sum to transit to cover the cost of their students riding the bus. So it's not free in the sense of free service.
Then I think that the rate schedule needs to reflect that, because the rate schedule says that university students, staff, and faculty ride free, yet it doesn't address municipal employees that actually do ride free. And nowhere have I ever seen in any documents where the taxpayers of Anchorage have agreed to pay that benefit for municipal employees. So I think we have some major problems in transit. And instead of just throwing money at it, and you're making changes tonight of $365,000, what do I get for it?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Rusty Jones.
Hi, my name is Rusty Jones. I work at Access Alaska. I'm an independent living specialist there, and I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. I also have with me Debbie Rao, who is one of the clients with me at Access Alaska. I would like to thank you all for reconsidering the transportation with version S. Transportation in Anchorage is very important. A lot of the people that we work with, trying to teach them to be independent and help them get around town to the appointments that they need to make, to be social, to be independent. They rely strongly on the bus service. They don't always have family or friends to be able to take them around, and the only way they have to get there is by using Anchor Rides or People Mover. A lot of the people don't have access to large incomes. They live on the limited incomes through Social Security or adult public assistance, and frequently they can't afford to pay the increases that are being proposed. Many of the people are also property owners, and so when the taxes are raised, they too feel the crunch. And we know that somewhere along the line, things are going to have to be increased across the lines. So rather than raising the bus passes, we're asking that you do consider other means to maybe do this. It's not like they're riding for free, as some are suggesting, but they have no other means of being able to do this. And Debbie would like to voice her opinion too, please. So we're asking that you will please consider this S version and be in support of that, and thank you.
I would like to voice my opinion on the sidewalks and being plowed and stuff for the people mover. When I ride the people mover, there's no sidewalks being plowed or nothing, and we have to walk through the snow just to get from point A to point B and stuff like that. It's not very fun to walk through the snow when everybody else has a car and we don't.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming. Robin Stillwell?
Hi, thank you for the opportunity and for your service. I am here as a citizen. I live in the district with Ms. Johnston and Mr. Birch. And as the mother of teenage boys, I am in awe of the work that is done by Boys and Girls Clubs, Mountain View and Northeast, as well as Eagle River and Woodland Park. I am on staff at Food Bank of Alaska, and we for many years have collaborated with Boys and Girls Clubs on providing snacks and meals for them. We live in and Food Bank of Alaska, I mean, our job is basically making sure people have food. It's nice that kids have a safe place, but our primary purpose is to feed hungry kids. And in Alaska, 1 in 4 children, in rural Alaska, 1 in 5 children in Anchorage is at risk of hunger. And for every 100 children that receive a free or reduced price lunch during the school year, only 7 have access to a summer meal. In the last year, Boys and Girls Clubs, Mountain View and Northeast have provided over 20,000 meals and after-school snacks to the children that they serve. I wish that I had the statistics for Camp Fire, because I know that they have served at least that many as well. These are programs that are federal nutrition programs. They bring in federal dollars into the state. This past year, those 2 Boys and Girls Clubs brought in over $40,000 of federal dollars into the state of Alaska to cover those meals. It's very, very important service to the kids, very, very important service that Boys and Girls Clubs offer. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
There appear to be none. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to testify? Please come forward if you would.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Berlini. I'm a resident of Jennifer Johnson and Chris Birch's district, and have been having to do my own little budgeting for my expenses this coming year. And part of those expenses that I just did this afternoon is my health insurance for just my children has gone up to $2,900 a year. The deductibles that I have to pay for my children will be $900, going up from $600. The co-pays for prescriptions are going up from $20 to $40. My condo dues are $2,700. My property taxes are $2,775 that I paid last year, and my property value dropped $8,000. And in addition to that, by my choice to be there for my children, have taken an $11,000 pay cut to be there for my children before and after school, because that's something that I value. And that being said, with everything that I heard about the Boys and Girls Club, I will say that my kids are pretty lucky. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Ed Bear. Recently, an initiative passed in Anchorage by a huge margin, the tax increase limitation. The main purpose of that widely passed initiative is to lower property taxes. In other words, property taxes would be less in 2010 than in 2009, and so on. I hope that all of you realize and implement the cuts that are needed to make what the vast majority of the Anchorage voters made evident. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to testify?
Good evening, Madam Chair, Assembly members, and Mayor. My name is Melanaita Finau. I am a single mother of 5. A very dedicated employee of the municipality, working at the Project Management and Engineering Department. I stand before you this evening because on September 29th, 2009, my supervisor, Kara Askren, and I received our potential layoff notice from my director and manager, Mr. Hansen and Mr. Moore. Prior to that meeting, Mr. Moore gathered our financial group together to provide us an update of the budget from their staff meeting. Mr. Moore informed us of the shortage in the budget and the potential layoffs. He informed us that they've carefully considered each and everyone's job duties and what they could get rid of or what they could do without. Since that day, the following questions has lingered. If we are bond funded and would not make a difference in the overall budget, why would we be on the potential layoff list? If they've considered the importance of each job, again, why are we on the potential layoff list? Between my supervisor and I, we receive and process millions of dollars of vendor invoices and pay estimates each week and ensure our contractors are paid timely and accurately. To give you an idea of the value of our work in this one area, from January of this year to present, we've already paid out more than $69 million in invoices and pay estimates. Pay estimates alone represent over $32 million spread across 100 construction contracts. I personally managed 33 open vendor contracts valued over $6 million. I haven't been told who is going to perform this function or how. My understanding is that the pay estimates and vendor invoices work is intended to be absorbed among the remaining employees in the work center. Assuming they will have time to receive training, and assuming it's possible to train all of them before Carol and I leave, and both assumptions are a major stretch. We don't see how decentralizing these tasks will result in anything but a mess. The number and complexity of these functions are simply not fully appreciated by the department leadership, and our customers are concerned. Consider this.
We received a number of phone calls and visits from the contractors we serve, expressing their concerns regarding the impact our layoffs will have on their payments. Some even put their concerns in writing to Mr. Hansen with a courtesy copy to the mayor. One of the letters stated, during the time between Paula leaving and Carol taking her position, it allowed others to discover what an extremely important position and job this was. Jerry, it was a mess. Substitute employees tried to do pay estimates and vendor payments. I found myself showing them and teaching them how the pay estimates work, and oftentimes had to come in and re-sign the pay estimate 2 or 3 times because they were done incorrectly.
Can you summarize?
I'm at the end of it.
You're at the end? Okay.
Yes. We also ensure that municipal employees are paid timely and accurately by processing the department's weekly payroll. This function is reportedly slated to be incorporated into the central payroll. This may sound like a good idea, but our employees code their times to numbers of projects. Numerous changes and corrections need to be made all the way up to the payroll deadline. It's hard enough to ensure these transactions are completed with us on site. Trying to do this remotely is not going to work very well. Ladies and gentlemen, my supervisor and I love our jobs. We do a phenomenal job. We maintain very good relationship with our contractors we serve, and at times are able to save the city's penalties because of those relationships. We do a good job hunting down employees and making sure they get paid on time and accurately. With this bunch, it's not an easy task. Once again, our positions are bond. I'm asking you to identify all positions in the MOA that are slated for layoffs, that are slated for layoff and that are bond funded, and find out how eliminating these positions is going to save the city money.
Thank you. Dr. Sofreg?
I wanted to say thank you. I think it's bold of you to come down here and speak openly about your job, and I want to thank you for your good work and for putting a face on the position. And also, I will follow up on your question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Gray-Jackson.
Thank you, Madam. I want to thank you, too, for coming out and sharing your story with all of us, not just through the email that we received from Carol, but it's important that you come and do exactly what you did. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else?
Good evening, Assembly members and Mayor. You have to be careful when you let the Boys and Girls Club know that there's a public hearing. Thanks for listening to us for just about half of the evening. I just wanted to, by the way, my name is Jennifer Brown, and I'm the Director of Urban Clubs. I oversee the clubhouses here in Anchorage, Eagle River, as well as Mat-Su. I just wanted to clarify some numbers for the record. The Northeast Community Center currently has 707 registered members. The daily attendance doesn't reflect that, but it fluctuates from school year to summer. But we do serve 707 kids in Northeast Anchorage. Mountain View, as of last Wednesday, has 935 registered members. Some of them participate in sports, some before school, some after school, but 935 kids. There was also some testimony for the food bank program. I'd like to clarify that as well. This summer, thanks to our partnership with the Food Bank of Alaska and Boys and Girls Clubs, we served 28,564 lunches to kids that I know that I saw would not be able to, that was their only meal for the day. I also personally sent home extras with kids that I knew had big families to feed and wouldn't get fresh fruits and vegetables any other way. I also would like to say that we have already made all of the cuts that we can make. Those 935 members in Mountain View are served by 3 full-time staff. 3 full-time staff, in addition to volunteers, of course, but that's what we've got over there, as well as 1 part-time janitor and some volunteers, some teens that are here today. Chester, thank you very much for your help. And then the McLaughlin question that Dr. Selcraig had earlier, we have 200 McLaughlin members that we've served this year, 58 of those last week. We've pared down our program there. We serve them on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and last week those kids amounted to 58 that were given job readiness skills, social skills, and their voices are heard and they're being pointed in the right direction. So those are big numbers. Any questions? Thank you for support, and thanks everybody for coming out to testify. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to testify? Go ahead.
Assembly, Mayor, my name is Steve Veldkamp, and I was the maintenance manager for the Boys and Girls Club for the last 13 years. I was laid off on Wednesday. I've seen Mountain View when it was a small little corner club out next to where Alaska Butcher Supply is, and now it's the Mountain View Community Center. I was there when it got built. I was there in the initial designs of Northeast Community Center. I remember what was the other end of the building when it was your guys' just community center before the club came in and served all the kids that it's serving now. It's quite simple to look at this. Dave Barney, can you stand up? Dave, can you stand up? That's the manager of the Mountain View Boys and Girls Club. Would you rather see these kids see Dave? Can you sit down? Or the man behind him? The police officer?
Oh.
It's quite simple. It's far cheaper for you guys to spend money on Dave than it is to go see that officer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to testify? Anyone else like to testify? Hearing and seeing no one, public hearing is closed.
Move to adjourn.
Is there objection to adjourn? Seeing none, we are adjourned.